ARCA Durban provides an exclusive rehab treatment for alcoholism and drug addiction. The only rehab in South Africa that offers a medical detox treatment. We offer a superior, evidence-based and medically cutting-edge approach to the treatment of addiction. If you have been frustrated by repeated failures at rehab recovery or are unaware that there are proven anti-craving medications that can significantly improve treatment outcomes, give us a confidential call to learn more about ARCA Durban's rehab program. Contact ARCA Durban on 078-2722-911 24 hours or call our office number 031-261-5515 and our Johannesburg number on 0622-770-911. Office number 011-656-0705.
My name is Nelsi Wembata and I'm 33 years old. I'm from Kingindlovu in a rural area. I'm an electrical apprenticeship at Tongati Hewlett. The late Mr. Mzobanzi Kili, who had been working in the local rural area, he told me about the internship at Tongati Hewlett. After inquiring my document, I applied in 2020. For more than 10 years, I've been at home without nothing and it's not easy to find jobs. This opportunity means a lot to me. It changed my life and it restored my self-esteem again and my self-confidence. My family, they are so happy because I'm the first one to get this opportunity. I'm growing a sweet future by inspiring a youth or a young one to study and to reach out. Thank you a lot, Tongati Hewlett, for giving me this opportunity. I'm growing a sweet future.
Royston Hall Historical Guest House is located on the south coast in a lush nature reserve in M1020, Port Shepstone. The house is a restored Victorian home featuring a swimming pool and a beautiful Victorian patio area. The house is rich in history and we were invited by a Port Shepstone resident and friend of owner Ria Hackland, Yoshina Singh, to travel with us to Royston. Be prepared to be blown away with a rich lesson in history about love and war. Ria Hackland, the owner, narrates this amazing story of her hidden gem.
Hi African Essence, I'm Yashina and welcome to my hometown of Port Shepstone. Today we're going to take you through to one of my favorite places, Royston Hall Historical Guest House, and we're going to be speaking to Ria Hackland. So come along and follow me.
The house had several owners and it has had the greatest impact when Brigadier Jack Royston purchased it. Part of the house had also burned down, but it was rebuilt, but not to full restoration. It then began to resemble a ghost house as the years had passed, and it was unmaintained with various owners.
Hello, Yeshi. I am going to tell you about my home. I'm so pleased you're interested because I love it. Royston Hall is a registered heritage house and it was built in the late 1800s, originally for a Captain Collins who had shipping interests and he wanted to see the harbour from here. So he built the house here. It had 3 stories to start off with, and about 32 years ago the top story burnt down. Some years later, our hero of the story, Brigadier General John Robinson Royston, bought the house and he lived here very happily until his demise during the Second World War. And his story is immensely interesting because he was a hero of the First World War. He was a cavalryman of note, larger than life, and he earned himself the name Galloping Jack. Galloped up and down the trenches throughout the night, encouraging his boys, as he called them. And he'd say, for instance, that the sun will rise soon, and then with sunrise there will be victory. Have faith, boys. And during this time, the history book says between 4 and 8, who knows, everybody exaggerates, horses were shot from under him, so he was that close in range of the enemy. And he got shot in his leg and during the one gallop. And when he realized he was losing too much blood, he just reared up his horse and turned around and galloped to the Red Cross tent, where he reared the horse again and said, "Tie down this leg, I'm losing blood." He had no patience. And you know, in those days they did beautiful bandaging in a herringbone fashion like this. And they were still fiddling with a bandage when he said, "That's enough." Reared the horse up again, spun around, and off to the boys. So one of my history books I have here has an engraving of him galloping with dust behind him and the white bandage flapping in the wind behind him. It gives you the exact idea of who Galloping Jack was. Unfortunately, he was so gung-ho that he, at the end of the First World War, the Germans brought out the mustard gas, which of course was fatal to most, except for Galloping Jack, who said, "Give me that canister, I want to smell what this stuff smells like so that I can guard my boys against it." So I opened the canister, took a deep whiff and keeled over, and he was sent back to England on a hospital ship. And he was gravely ill for a very long time, and then sent back to the colonies, back to Africa, back to Royston Hall, unfit for duty. And that broke his heart because his life revolved around war. He was honored to have attended 3 coronations in England as the representative of the colonies. And during one of these periods, I'm not exactly sure when, he fell ill again, and he was nursed by this beautiful little, tiny of stature, blonde nurse who was a novice nun. His first wife and the mother of his children had died of natural causes by then, and these two fell madly in love. And regardless of the 34 years in difference in ages, he married her and he brought her out to darkest Africa, where they lived here at Royston Hall very happily. Now, what makes me happy is that one of the multitude of Australian people who have contacted me over the years, copies of love letters that Galloping Jack had written to his dearly beloved Mildred, came to me by, yes, I can't even say through internet, it wasn't, because the son of the great nephew of Mildred contacted me through Facebook, and he said, "No, my dad better talk to you about this, he knows more about it." The old man phoned me, I couldn't understand his accent, and he said he couldn't understand my accent. I wonder why. And he then said, "This is ridiculous. We need to see eye to chat." And I said, "I agree with you, sir. You speak very funny." And the conversation ended there. And during the next week, I had a reservation here for 10 days for him and his elderly wife. And they duly arrived and told me wonderful, wonderful stories of Mildred, because I never knew anything about Mildred, because the general was the hero, not her, which is a sad thing because us girls count. And they brought copies of the love letters and copies of a painting, watercolor painting that was made from the opposite side of the Umzimkhulu River in front here. And I'm sad about that, because I think those originals should be in the house, not in Australia somewhere, and I guess where the old man is really elderly now. And so on. I don't think his son is interested in the love letters. I am. So maybe I should contact him again. The old general, he was very elderly at that time and not very well, loved having his nightcap on the veranda here, and his wife would, according to folklore, dance for him in the moonlight. And somebody added a little tale to it that she danced in the nude. I don't think that's true, because this place is so private. Unless he said so or she said so, nobody would have known. But he enjoyed that little ritual, which she then continued after his death. He died of natural causes, and he decreed that he needed to be buried in front of the house. It's supposedly 20 or 30 paces from the front door, because he wanted to mind his Mildred, his dearly, dearly beloved Mildred, in death as he minded her in life.
Brigadier was buried outside and moved much later. However, his request to be buried on the same property was due to his belief that he was watching over his wife Mildred from beyond.
His wording didn't work so well, because Mildred was murdered here. Now, to us South Africans, it's not such, sadly, a shocking thing that people get murdered. It happens all the time. But in those years, in 1959, it was a big sensation and a very sad thing to have happened. What happened was Mildred used to walk up the footpath. She never owned a car, and she lived here for many years without him after he died. And she used to walk every day up to the shop around the corner here for the daily provisions. Then she didn't arrive one day, and they surmise that it was because of her leaving the teapot on the Aga stove in the kitchen, because that teapot was found totally incinerated. And the shop owner's wife then got uncomfortable about this, because she never skipped a day. And she sent people down to look. Nobody came when they called. And then she sent her husband down, who opened the back door and looked down the passage and saw the grisly signs of a horrendous murder that took place here. He then had to run up this hill to get to a number asseblief phone, to get the police. They sent out a detective, and a very elderly friend of mine who came here after we bought the house and came and told me the stories firsthand, which was wonderful. It's not hearsay now, he was here. And they came in together, and they found that she must have found him in the bedroom, in the main bedroom, and they fought from there all the way down. And this thief was here to steal the weaponry that she'd kept for posterity, I'm sure, and as a bit of a shrine, or big shrine, for her war hero late husband. So there would have been guns and knives and swords and things against the walls, where I now have grandchildren. And so when she came back for the teapot, she heard a noise upstairs, and she must have apprehended him in her bedroom, and they fought from there all the way down. Now that is quite something for a little woman to fight a desperate, huge big man. And he overwhelmed her at the base of the steps and strangled her to death. He then took the body and put it behind the two-seater couch in the alcove. Now the alcove must be this bay window in the sitting room, because at first I heard the story incorrectly. I heard it was under the staircase, and there's a toilet there now. So not wanting to be a scaredy cat, I thought I must go in the dark at night and go to that toilet. But I did sing praise and worship songs at the top of my lungs all the way up and down the steps. But all for nothing, because that's not even where she was. So the detective then found a daffodil yellow button clasped in her hand, and he retrieved that, kept it in his pocket, and staked out the bus terminal, where he quickly found the gardener with the daffodil yellow shirt with the button missing. Now, in those days, there was still the death penalty for murder, so he was found guilty of Mildred's murder after having been fingerprinted, and he was hung for the crime in Pretoria in those days.
Royston attended 3 coronations as a South African representative. He received his final coronation medal in 1936. It is said that he met Mildred Wright, born in East Ashford, Kent, his second wife, during this visit. She is believed to have been a novice nun who declined taking her final vows and married Royston in about 1938, after which they returned to Natal to take up residence at Mount Romany, as it was then known. Mrs. Royston remained a devout Roman Catholic throughout her life. At the age of 82 years, Brigadier John Robinson Royston passed away, and according to his wish to stay near his beloved Mildred to protect her even in death, was buried on the property some 20 paces from the front door. In about 1978, his remains were removed and reinterred at Heroes Acre in Durban. Legend has it that at night, Mildred would raise her arms to the heavens and dance naked for the watchful spirit of her late husband. She lived on alone at the hall, where she is said to have created a shrine in memory of her late husband by displaying his many war memorabilia in the house. This caused her ultimate demise.
The house then stood empty because there was no male heir to inherit the house, as I expected. He expected it to happen. Was supposed to stay in the family in perpetuity, and they found that his daughter's son lived in America, and he had to go to High Court to sort this out, because he said he's never going to set foot in Darkest Africa, and he is not going to have male or female offspring at all, and therefore he wants to sell the house out of the will. Now, on the basis, for the reason of him having been homosexual, he could sell the house out of the family trust. Well, that wasn't the trust. And the house then stood derelict again. The young people in the area really had a field time here stripping lead from the gutters, and made sinkers and sold it to the Transvaal holidaymakers. So they did a good bit of damage here, and thinking it's very funny. And there's a lot of stories of the young guys coming down here with their girlfriends because it's a ghost house. And then when they scream, then they could hug the girls and maybe get a kiss in, and they, there's a lot of these people still alive around. And they tell me, but they're now somewhat older than I am. And it's just so wonderful what a role this house has played in so many people's lives on different levels of seriousness. Later years, the house was bought by people from England, And of course, British money has always been better than South African rand, and they really restored the house, but not to the extent that it's restored now. I wouldn't have liked to have had it then, because they painted every scrap of Oregon pine wood in this place. They painted white, and they put wall-to-wall carpets all over these beautiful floors, because the gentleman enjoyed classical music and it echoed and disturbed him to have naked floors. So when they left was the time that I then met the house the first time, when my first husband and I owned the Amtentwini Hotel on the beachfront here, and we had the senior staff from the construction company staying with us for many, many months, better part of the year, because they were here to put in new railway lines and fly over bridges here, going to Port Shepstone, and two tunnels going through the big hill in front of us here and underneath the house. It's not quite directly underneath the house. It's towards the garages, but it's near enough. And this chief engineer came in one afternoon and he said, "Jump into my car. I want to go and introduce you to this old Victorian lady that we are going to blast to pieces next week." And I went, "You can't do that, you can't do that. I love old buildings." And so we came here, and just coming through the gate overwhelmed me already. I hadn't even seen the house. And when I walked around this house, I was definitely in some sort of trance, because I just loved it, and that house loved me back, and I just had to have it. But we couldn't sell the hotel, and we had no capital to buy anything. In any case, they were going to blast the house the next week. But of course, I've always had a wonderful imagination, and I was planning everything way prematurely, because there was no chance of getting the house. But I've never said never to anything. It might take a longer time than I wish for, but you don't say no, I can't do it, or it's not possible. There's no such word. So when we arrived here, I floated around here on a pink cloud. I did. And I was lost in imagination of what could go where, and I just needed to live in this house. And it felt safe, and it felt as if the house loves me as much as I love it, and on first introduction. But of course, you know, what I fabricate in my mind and I'm fascinated with is not always available in the bank. So we would have needed to sell the hotel to buy here, and that's not quite an easy thing to do. And they didn't need to blast a tunnel under the house then, which would have destroyed the house. They found that they could excavate because it was shale, it was loose rock, and they didn't have to blast. And they saved a ton of money, and there was a big celebration about that. And you know, I didn't have to go and drink champagne, and the ladies Bob and I were celebrating too, because the house was still standing and there's still hope. So I then made it my business to toodle up to Durban and go and find NPC, who this private railway line was put in for. And it was a lovely long story about getting there, very long and very interesting. But I was absolutely focused on getting to the managing director and asking for the house's key. Well, I didn't even ask for the key. I just went to tell him that we want to buy this house. Please don't put it on the open market, because we don't have money, and as it is, no, if we put agents on, it costs more. So I left there with a cup of lovely filtered coffee from his office, and clasping that massive metal key in my sweaty hand, I was in heaven.
Ria Hackland's vision and dreams became a reality. It's true what they say. Dream it and you can achieve it. A woman of strength and courage, hard work has paid off. she waited 3 decades.
So then I really started dreaming and chapters. We sat on the front veranda here, my girlfriend and I, and planned where the flower arrangements would go and where the piano must stand and where everything must go. And I, of course, didn't want to be a hotelier all my life. I wanted to be an interior designer, and I started swatting immediately to get a qualification. And I could see in my mind's eye my guests, my clients coming here to plan their beautiful homes, and I'd have my fabric libraries here and work with the plans. And it didn't work that way, because I think the good Lord had a different plan with me, because I wonder if it's because of that. Shortly after that, we were divorced. And a year later, I met my husband, and I saw that it's no fun in marrying a farmer, and I heard of this wonderful lady's life of doing lunches and having tea parties. Is not going to happen, because there's no rain, there's no money, and I'd better start doing interior design. So I practiced on my friends, then I practiced on people that I'm not so friendly with and made them pay. And then I found out that I can actually do this without all that complication of getting the qualifications. And I was up and running. I registered my company, and I started working, which I've done for 25 years, and I sold the business then. I had to push little hands through sleeves and start working soon after I married Roderick, because we didn't have rain in Umzumbi for 4 years after I married him. So I couldn't ever get to the leisurely life of the farmer's wife and the tea parties and the lunches. I had to work, and I worked extremely hard for many, many, many years after that. I started interior decorating the year after I married Roderick, because of this dreadful drought that we had, and that had gone from strength to strength over the years. And in the end, that was the means that made it possible for me to buy Royston Hall, not the other way around, not buying Royston Hall and designing from here. The other way around, I worked and worked and worked until I had enough money to put down a deposit to buy Royston Hall. And so this dream that I had so many, many years ago took me the better part of 3 decades to fulfill. I don't think I fulfilled it. I think it was pure grace that I managed to land up here and live my dream. And you know, I have been interior designing for 32 years, and I thought that that was enough. And it is time for me now to just sit back and host guests at Royston Hall, which I am doing on a pretty informal basis. But I find now that I'm not designing anymore, that I'm enjoying the functions as well. And I just love people. So I have fabulous people I meet every week, and some become fast friends, others come and go. Some I can't remember the names of, blame it on the age. But I do love receiving new people and hearing where they come from and where they go and all that. And of course the fabulous functions that we've had here, always tiny, always intimate, because if I'm doing the cooking, I battle after 30 people, then I have to buy in somebody else's services, and I'm never satisfied with anybody else. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and well, perfect to my standard. I have the most fabulous functions here that my clients request. It's not my initiative, but I just love participating, and of course I'm always cooking and doing the thing, because hungry people can't party too well. Like, for instance, the murder mysteries that we've had here with great success. And the people are so fabulous, they dress up. You know, we had a coroner with a tall black hat, and we had the Bobby with his round hat with a star on the front, and nurses and all the different characters, and they all study in their parts when they arrive, and then of course the murder takes place. And we've had more than one murder mystery party here, but the one they left a shop dummy in the foyer here with a sheet pulled over her head. Made me very uncomfortable. It didn't much like that, but the whole thing was then unraveled and the murderer was caught and all that. So when everybody left after a fabulous party and I was cleaning up, I thought, I don't like this shop dummy or not lying under the sheet here. I didn't like it. So I lugged her out to the back veranda so that the people who rented the props out could remove it in the morning. But I couldn't make her sit in the chair, and I didn't want her lying on the floor. So I undid the top and the bottom, and I made the top sit in a chair and push it against the table, and the legs and stuff I put on the floor. And the next morning when I came in, I nearly had a heart attack. When I walked in, here's this face sitting looking at me. And so did my husband get a big fright. It was not funny. So I said, come and take your doll away here. I don't like it. But aside from that, now we've had wonderful baby showers, of course, and a lot of women's interest functions and speakers. I have a heart for women. I really do. And so I have a lot of functions for them. I had a tea party here for quite a number of ladies who were all in polygamous marriages. And that intrigued me because I don't think I could take competition, not in the kitchen and not anywhere else. So I don't know how they work that lot. And my husband says one wife is enough. But that was wonderful. Obviously, these husbands are fabulously wealthy because these ladies were beautifully dressed. And we had a television crew here for that as well. And then the one lady's 50th birthday party, where she gave me the colors, and they always do that. But I found it amazing that after every course, there were 3 courses. It was a lunch. It wasn't even in the evening. After every course, they all changed to new evening dresses, different evening dresses. And of course, everybody had a ball doing selfies, and I was in between clicking with a soup ladle under my arm, but I still also needed my own photos there. It was lovely. And also the ladies, when there's a function like that, they like to have a throne. There's one chair that is then double the size of normal, and with a high back and raised on a dais, because this is the lady that's important for the day. I also do very regular Victorian teas, and after the first Victorian tea, when the ladies thought, it's one of those that I have to put my garden hat on and stick a couple of plastic roses in, I said to them, relax. The house is Victorian. You don't need to wear a silly hat, really. Just come elegantly dressed and enjoy the morning. And over the years, I've collected so many beautiful pieces of porcelain and silver. And the silver is mostly given to me because people don't want to clean up silver anymore, and their children don't want it. So when they come to a tea party, they say, oh, I've also got a teapot that's just standing there. Do you want it? Yes. So I've got a whole selection of things that I use because it's part of the era that I represent through Royston Hall. Accommodation, maximum we can take 15 people. There's one single room and the rest are all double rooms. They all have bathrooms. They're their own bathrooms en suite, and televisions, coffee station, and everything that they need. And if they haven't got it there, I will dance around them and make sure that I make my guests happy. Not that that's always possible, because you always get the one that's awkward, that comes here, for instance, and says, yeah, it's all right, but geez, everything's so old. It's meant to be old. It didn't just arrive here old. I planned it to be looking old. So the young lady that so snippy said that it's old, it's taken a lot of hard work and planning to dress this lady in the period that becomes her. It's not totally Victorian, but there's a friendly nod towards the Victorian style, and it's as well maintained as it's possible to keep such a big place maintained perfectly. And as I said, we have not four, I think all in all it would be 8 new bathrooms with new fittings, because I find that the overseas guests don't mind tootling down the steps to the bathroom to have their morning bath, but the South Africans, they want their own bathroom and they want their own TV. Otherwise they fight on which channel, who is what, so they each have their own now, and there's peace in this house. So as far as entertainment is concerned, I always say to people, bring a good book and bring your man. But what we do have is fabulous walks through the forest. This is classed as tall coastal dune forest, is its full name. And you've got 6.5 acres of this fabulous jungle around me. I just love it. And there's 208 birds species documented here. So it's really a birder's paradise, and I'm not getting that many birders. So birders out there, please come. And the footpaths through the forest are all marked and demarcated. And, you know, to the bamboo forest, I think somebody should get married there. As long as I don't have to carry the tables and chairs and things down there, it's very hilly. But it would make a wonderful, wonderful wedding backdrop. Of course, most people who have a function have it around the pool here, with a fabulous view of the Umzimkhulu River, which changes color magnificently. At the moment, it's like rooibos tea, because there's been rain up country. In winter, when there is no rain, it's perfectly blue. And so they want their function up here. It's more practical, of course, but I don't have a function locale as such. I don't have a hall. It's just the English that call a big house, Royston Hall. And I have had many phone calls of people saying, I want to see the hall, but there is no hall. So if you have a small intimate wedding coming up, or any celebration, I'd be happy to cater for you. Thank you so much for listening to me, and come and see our home and our beautiful little slice of paradise for yourself, because we could never explain what it looks like. You have to feel it. It's that sort of place. And we look forward to hosting you either on a business trip on the way through, or for a weekend away of very peaceful quiet, or a longer stay, wedding, or whichever you choose. And you can contact me on info@roystonhall.co.za, and my name is Ria Hackland.
Well, African Essence viewers, I hope that you enjoyed your adventure here with us at Royston Hall Historical Guest House.
Igama lami ngugogo Virginia Dlamini. Ngingumlimi omdala womoba kwaHulethe eKZN. Ngineminyaka ewu-91. Ukulima umoba kade kwaba ingxenye yempilo yami. Ubaba wayelima umoba, nomfowethu wayelima umoba, nami futhi ngilima umoba. Ngibona abesifazane abaneminyaka ewu-60 besebenzisa izinduku, kodwa ngisakuthanda ukudansa nokuhleka eminyakeni yami. Vele ngisazizwa ngimuhle. Umphakathi nawo ubalulekile kakhulu kimina. Ngichitha isikhathi ngisiza umphakathi ngey'ngxabano zomhlaba kanye nokuphatha amalungu ethu esibambisene nawo. Ngifundisa iy'ngane zesikole nomphakathi wonke ngokubaluleka ngokunakekela umhlaba wethu. Kuyangizuzisa uma ngibona abanye bekwemukela ukunakekela umhlaba wethu. Kuyangizuzisa kakhulu uma ngibona abanye bekwazi ukubona umthelela omuhle ezolimo ezinawo ezimpilweni zabo. Ngiyazifela ngomhlaba wethu, ngiyazifela ngomphakathi wakithi, ngizifela ngokukhulisa ikusasa elimnandi.
The south coast of Durban is known for its pristine coastline, beautiful blue beaches, lush forests, and hidden gems. It's become the holiday destination for tourists and locals. Positioned in Scottsboro is the Blue Marlin Hotel, another fantastic destination to visit. Attentive staff with smiles all round make for a guaranteed pleasurable experience. Delicacies catered from either their a la carte or lavish buffet menus are sure to tantalize and satisfy. The accommodation boasts nothing but the best for a luxurious overnight stay, and here at the Blue Marlin Hotel, you are sure to receive that experience.